Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Marina, and I work for Amarilla Community Co-Living Co-Working. And this afternoon, we're bringing you a workshop on how to become self-employed in the Canary Islands for all those people falling in love with the islands, which happens more than we like. Oh, no, we love it. I'm joking. And this event is in collaboration with Tenerife Work and Play. And we brought you a specialist, a gestor, Arturo, who's going to do a quick presentation and then have some time for some questions about anything related in taxes or house settling here or even social security. So please let me introduce to you Carlos Jonay from Tenerife Work and Play.
Thank you very much, Marina. Okay, I am Carlos Jonay Suarez. I collaborate with Tenerife Work and Play. Tenerife Work and Play is a project, a brand from Turismo de Tenerife. Our mission is try to attract digital talent to the Tenerife island, okay? Digital nomads, remote workers, remote companies, and put in action and connection with the local community and generate these kind of events for connecting people each other, okay? And this is our mission. Of course, if you need more information, we can help you with information about taxis, information about who is staying in Tenerife, information about our other communities, and other people, and generate different activities to connect people and do networking. And thanks a lot for coming, and thanks a lot, Marina, for the collaboration. And I hope you enjoy of this amazing workshop about Spanish and Canary taxes. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, guys. First of all, thank you, Tenerife Work and Play and Amarilla Coliving for this wonderful opportunity. My name is Arturo Garcia. As mentioned, I'm the founder and tax advisor in AAA Accountants, located here in the south. We work mainly for European customers. So we'll be one of the few agencies in Tenerife who actually does have very few national clients. Specialize in new technologies, etc. If I may, because of the safety measures, we're going to start talking taxes, and it's ugly enough, so I'll just show my teeth. We're going to touch today very briefly, because of the time of the workshop, social security, different regimes of the social. This is the National Tax Office, between being self-employed or a limited company. We're going to discuss the Canarian VAT. This is quite an important one for you guys. Your fiscal residence, not say more, and tax reduction schemes, just so they ring the bell if we ever hit one of these and we can use it in the future. As a general little touch, if we have time, if not, we explain it later in questionings, how to purchase a property, what taxes apply, and why, and so on. So, straight to the point, we'll discuss the social security of Spain. We have two regimes, and when you become a self-employed or a director of a company, you are in the first one, the one called RETA. It's the special regime of self-employed workers. This regime makes you make a monthly payment, and you contribute for a fixed amount to your future pension. The amount can be changed in the future as well. If you want to say, okay, I want to pay more of my social security, but I would like to secure a higher pension, this is also an option. The other one is called Régimen General, the general regime. This is for when you employ somebody. So if you have ever thought, maybe you guys freelance a lot and you get in touch with other freelancers for projects, but if you ever need to employ a person, to give you an idea, calculate 0.40 of the salary. The minimum salary of Spain is 950 euros a month for 40 hours work, depending on your industry. So if it's a software developer, of course, it's going to be on a higher category, and depending on your degree and qualifications and so on. But to give you an idea, if somebody, you offer them, I'm going to pay you for this position to help me with administration duties, 1,000 euro, your social is going to be between 385 and 400, the cost of this employee. National Tax Office, being self-employed or a limited company. In Spain, Sociedad Limitada. For starters, of course, everybody needs to be a self-employed through either director of a company or as an autonomo to start off. There's also two kinds of autonomos. We have professional autonomo, and we have more like a business. In a business, a bar, another line of invoicing. what can you do, for example, as a professional autonomo? If you are a software developer that invoices constantly one company which is located in the Canary Islands of Spain, then your invoice, basically tax-wise, this is a lot cheaper because in your invoice you apply a retention. Also, there's a scheme of there's a reduction in VAT from the Canadian taxes. And for the first 2 years after you start an economic activity, technically you should be VAT free, unless you go over a level of 30,000 euro income in that first year. Then you don't. Then in the second year you have to apply EGIC on every invoice. Now, what do I have with clients of your line that invoice mostly European countries and so on? EGIC does not apply. In fact, it doesn't even apply if you invoice a company in Madrid or Barcelona. The Canarian authorities, we have a special regime, the fiscal regime of the Canary Islands, and in this case we are qualified as an extra-communitary territory. If you have ordered goods from abroad and they've been over 150 euro and stopped in the customs, you've probably realized, why do I have to pay taxes for something to come over here? Well, it is like that. But when we import something from a company in Madrid or Valencia or whatever in mainland Spain, they also don't charge you Spanish VAT, which also is a lot higher, no? It's at 21%. So our EGIC on services is at 7%. There's other levels like luxury EGIC, just recently went to 15, and very basic EGIC, but that's more for basic foods, restaurant owners and so on. They will see that a lot of their purchases are at 3%, and the minute you transform this into a product, it's at 7% because it's a service. So in your case, mostly your purchases will be at 7 and your repercussion of EGIC will be at 7 as well when you invoice somebody. But if your clients are abroad in Europe, forget this part and we move on to the next. So the fiscal residence, yeah, that's a good one. There's a lot of controversy about fiscal residency and so on. Normally, there's a few laws that we have to apply. I'm not going to bore you with the whole text, but in general lines, after 183 days, you should become a fiscal resident in Spain, and your world income should be canalized through a Spanish tax return or your Spanish fiscality, depending on how we do it. Of course, to every situation, there are certain exemptions. But if you're planning to really stay here for years without traveling or being in other places and being uninterrupted in Tenerife for quite a long period of time, this is exactly how you will have to become a tax resident. How do you get your tax residency? The first time an accountant files your personal income tax return. So in Spanish, your declaración de la renta. This happens every year, corresponding to the year before, in the month of end of April till end of June. Many property owners, they buy a property, but they don't work, and they come and go and so on, and then they say, yeah, but if the last year, for example, they spent it in Tenerife, but they are having a UK pension and they never let it run through the system and legalize this situation, so they become a fiscal resident. When at the notary, they ask them selling a property, can I have your fiscal residence certificate? And they say, you check it out and they cannot produce it, then you are treated like a non-resident at the time of selling your property. If you are a resident, it's completely different, the procedure of selling a property. Tax reduction schemes. There's a lot, and there's a lot of reasons why many professionals choose to establish in the Canary Islands. Besides from the great weather and the cool atmosphere, there's like in Tenerife in particular, there's like 7 continents in one little island, as you may have experienced it. So it's a great place, I'm not gonna lie. But one of the big reasons for larger companies, and this is something that the guys of Tenerife Work and Play will be probably instigating to do and so on, is because of our low taxation system. One of the regimes that we have in the Canary Islands is the SEC zone. Okay, I get a lot of consultations and people say, I've heard of this SEC, whatever. SEC is really for an industry. So if you are setting up a company, the company operations, you want to do it in this island, you have to comply with certain requirements, but they're making it more and more flexible and open to certain industries. First, you need to comply with this line of industry can benefit from this line of taxes, but some others don't. For example, if you want to come and open a restaurant, you cannot be in the sex zone. But if you want to open an office of engineers, well, if you comply with the other requirements, you could profit from this. The level of taxations are ridiculously low, the lowest of Europe. You're talking 4% annual taxes, but I say to everybody that is signing for a project like this, it includes an investment in big islands, capital islands like Gran Canaria and Tenerife. You have to make an investment of 100,000 euro. And no, it cannot be a Porsche Panamera or an apartment, again. So it needs to be really that you're buying an industry, and also within 6 months of starting this project in a sex zone, you also have to guarantee permanent employment for 5 employees. So employee cost on minimum wage, imagine, plus social security, you are looking at 80 to 85k per year. So this is what you have to think if it's worth it or not. Then we have the second one I mentioned here very briefly is the reserve of investments in the Canary Islands. Many of our companies get onto this every year. It's fantastic because if you are willing to invest in the Canary Islands, well, the tax office allows you to have a super reduction of your taxes of the year. These reductions can be a big percentage of what you had to pay, or your company in this case. RIC can be done with both self-employed and companies, but because of the levels that we're talking about to make it worth it, most likely we're talking limited companies that will be doing this with RIC. We've had some cases in our office that as a self-employed, they did a dotation for a RIC investment with machinery, for example. When you talk something more solid like a commercial property or real estate and so on, that will be more for a limited company. I'll touch this one at the very end. I don't know how we are on time. But the main reason to choose between self-employed or a limited company, a lot of it is going to come to your level of income and taxes as well. For example, a self-employed business, depending on how your invoicing is, because we mentioned before the difference between professional self-employed and business self-employed. If you invoice all clients outside the Canary Islands, we forget the professional self-employed, can be done. So it will be a self-employed business. And to give you a very quick overview, every quarter it's applicable that you pay 20% of the cake to the National Tax Office. So your income minus all your costs and deductions, the profit that you make on that quarter, 20%, that's the figure of your fractional payments. On year end, the following year, when you do your tax return between April and April and June of, for example, now 2020, lovely year, we will take into consideration your personal circumstances in your personal tax return, plus the 4 quarterly fractional payments you've already made. So that's what can change the percentage to go up or down, depending on your personal circumstances, literally. When you're looking at a limited company, well, there's a reduction as well for starting an LTD of a company of new creation in Spain, and the first 2 fiscal years are going to be 15%. So automatically is 5% in your advantage. Of course, a limited company has a lot more, is a lot more complicated to run in terms of accounting, presentations, and so on. But if you have the right team to support and take care of that side, it's for me it's all advantages very quickly. The minute you go over in our line of business, we are talking of 40k a year in my view, you are in LTD territory. We can have a consultation and approve it on a paper. So that's your level of being worth it to change from autónomo or self-employed to limited company, sociedad limitada. Other reasons, protection of your own capital. So basically, the limited company, as we all know, the responsibility is limited to the capital of the company. The starting capital of a company in Spain is around the 3,000 euro. So in many activities, of course, if somebody is going to start a bungee jumping company, I wouldn't do it as self-employed, just in case. And the last little thing we're going to touch, which is interesting for you guys, property purchasing. If any of you is falling in love with these islands and would like to be part of it and owe a little piece of paradise, property purchases, you've probably heard in forums, yeah, it's like 10%, 10%. It isn't 10%. It is, in this case, very long word, capital transmission taxes and legally documented acts. This is 6.5% of the property purchase value, 6.5. And this happens when you purchase from a private person, or it's a second-hand home normally. It's going to be from a private person, so you will pay this one. But if you buy from a company, if my company owns a property and with your company you purchase this property that is being sold by another company, or sometimes when you buy straight from the developer, you will pay VAT. In fact, when you purchase a property that is from a developer, this gentleman here is making a lovely complex here in the neighborhood of Amarilla, and you guys want to buy, well, first of all, in every fractional payment you are doing for the property, there's VAT, IJIC included, of 7%. And when you finally go to the notary to sign for the final purchase, paying the last remaining amount that we owe the developer, you will pay 1% of this to legalize the act. The good thing is, when you have a company, the VAT you've been paying here, you can deduct it all along up to 8 years. And there's several other tricks up your sleeve to make it even better buying a property with a company. For me, if you guys would like to get deeper into technical questions or something that you really need to know, this is the time.
Do you have any questions about?
First, I've got one. Yeah. So, what's your experience?
I
With
thought
Brexit?
it was super clear, everything. Sorry.
What's your experience with Brexit so far, and how you can help British people invest in the island?
Well, this has been, we've been widely affected because we are located here in Chafiras, and a lot of our clientele is indeed British. So at the time, the clients that we had from before have already legalized the situation, and they were entitled to change into their green NIGs and then subsequently for the necessary TIA cards and so on. But in this case, we worked together with a couple of immigration lawyers to assess this matter, which is really, really important to get it right, because don't forget, the Canary Islands, our largest market is the British market, touristic wise and so on. Only the other day I heard we're running now, it's like you have a car, and we're running now on 7%, because 93% is gone the month of January of visitors compared to January 2020. So you can imagine how concerned this makes every industry related to any nationality that is on the island, but the British is quite raising concern.
Sorry. Ladies first.
Thanks. Is there a minimum amount of money, let's say if I'm self-employed or if I have a limited, that I have to make in order to be here?
What do you mean?
So like a yearly amount, let's say I have to earn like at least $500,000 or something. Is there like a specific amount of income that I have to generate?
Well, when you go to work every day, you have to think, I have to make $500,000 by SAP. That's your idea. But technically, no. You don't have to. You can have an LTD just to secure a property. You buy a couple of apartments, you put them in an LTD, and your real income or profits on a yearly basis could be 5 or 10,000. But in our line of business, when we do a case study, of course everything is different, but we will be looking at the border of the 40,000 euro income a year to make it worth your while financially to switch to an LTD. But of course there's million other reasons. If you are two partners setting up a business, I would recommend straight away to do it with an LTD instead of a sociedad civil, which is another line of sort of two self-employed getting together in a civil company, but in my view it's not the most tax effective way of having two people as partners in a company. Then I will go straight for LTD.
I own an established UK limited company which generates my income.
Mm-hmm.
Any recommendations on? I'm planning to I'm in the process of moving here, or already moved here. Any recommendations on how I can most efficiently position my tax between the UK and the Canaries?
Well, of course, well, this will require a deeper case study of your particular circumstances of your company, but by our clientele, in many cases, it is absolutely worth it. I know the VAT levels and corporate tax levels of the UK, so it will be certainly worth it to move your operations to a company in the Canary Islands if you wish to stay here long term. But we need to study what is exactly what your company does, because due to Brexit, like the other gentleman just asked, I had a company recently closing down in the Canary Islands because they do a lot of exports and parcels, and it wasn't worth their while anymore with customs and a lot of difficulties they're encountering. So it all depends on your line of industry. But if it's a digital company and you're going to be here, it makes absolute sense that the whole world operation of your company is moved to your company in the Canary Islands. Yeah.
I've got an online question.
Wonderful.
So Johannes, I'm hoping I've got his name right, Johannes Reddick, he says, hola.
Hola, Johannes.
I'm looking to get residence and either register as autonomo or have my own limited company to get residency. What is the right order of procedure? At this stage, he has a need.
What nationality is this gentleman?
He says he's an EU citizen.
Okay, well, for EU citizens, for starters, you don't need to really be self-employed. There's also, it's good that he popped up this question, because a lot of people show me their green card and they say, no, but look, I'm a resident. And I'm like, yes, you are a resident, but not a fiscal resident. To be a fiscal resident, you need to be busy with an economic activity or be an employee, file a tax return, then you're a fiscal resident. But a green card, if you are a European citizen, because of the Schengen space and the way we are, the easiest way is, one, you become self-employed, or two, you work as an employee for a boss, for a company, and then you comply with the fact that you pay Social Security, either this regime or this regime. They're both valid for residency. The more difficult one than that will be to find an apartment where this gentleman can actually write himself in for, it needs to be a long-term contract of a year, and a lot of our clients are encountering difficulties with this. And then once you do the famous crazy word of the town halls, empadronamiento, registering yourself in the town hall where your rental contract is, then you comply with both things. You pay social, or somebody pays it for you as an employee, and you are also written into your town hall. But if you don't want to work, or you are for whatever reason, or you are living from your savings and you want the residency, all you need to prove before the police is have a certificate of your bank that you have more than 5,000 and a bit euros in your bank account, and then comply with the residency. So somebody that has bought an apartment of its own and also can prove that I have this, and then of course what falls down when we don't have this or this? Medical care. So you take a medical insurance privately, quite high, because it needs to cover you for big diseases and so on, for not to say much. and then you will comply with the residency. So those are the options.
Yes, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for Brits and Canary as well. So a lot of us have got to the end of March, and then we've got to vacate the island apparently. And I've been told that a good way of staying is by getting a non-lucrative visa. Can you explain a bit more about the process of acquiring one of these?
I wouldn't, because I pass all this line of clients to our immigration lawyer, but I'm going to give you a few addresses near where you are probably, and you'll be on good hands,
Okay.
because this is a delicate matter, so they need to
Yes.
study your particular case. It's
Okay.
business accounting related. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a few questions from the live stream.
Mhm.
So one of them is, I had Autonomo before, but I had to close it. If I reopen it now, I will not get my reductions in Social Security and HIC anymore, right?
No, if you close it over 2 years ago, the law recently changed. Before it was 5, but if they become autonomous now and they've been 2 years doing something else, they most likely can comply with this. We can check this out with a digital certificate and let them know exactly when could you start again autonomous with the subsidy again of the Social Security.
We have another question. I'm looking to get residency and either register as Autonomo or have my own limited.
We've just done that one.
Oh, okay.
I have another one. Nobody has anything. Which is more specifically targeted to digital nomads. So I was thinking, if for example I want to stay here, so I'm a EU citizen, is it possible for me to stay here 3 months? Because I read that someone said that if you stay longer than 1.5 months, you would have to pay taxes. So I wanted to ask that question.
In the US, I have a few clients with limited companies in which a US citizen is part shareholder, and I do know there's certain restrictions in terms of even how many shares you can owe of a limited company.
Right? I mean EU citizen.
Ah, you are
The
EU.
US, yeah.
Ah, sorry, I thought you were. Okay.
The mask.
US now. Sorry. So, where are you? You are
Germany.
from Germany.
Yeah.
Well, as a EU citizen, you don't have any timeline to leave the island or so on. Your only time frame, maybe you came a bit later into the chat, is if you stay over 183 days. That is the main general rule that will oblige you to file your whole world income through a tax return in Spain and become a fiscal resident. But as I was mentioning before, there are certain exemptions. But in a general line, if you stay here for 9 months straight working, technically you should address this situation before that occurs.
Okay, so there's nothing like a 1.5 months rule.
That will be more for this gentleman here from our great friend Great Britain, who now we have quite a complicated situation because of our bonds and links to this country, and now is you hear these kind of things and you're like, what do you mean you have to? Yeah, you have to live indeed, because you are extra communitary now. So it's that's something to be addressed. Hopefully, that's on political level. So.
Yes.
Based on the rise of remote workers and digital nomads since COVID, in your professional experience, do you think maybe Spain and the Canary Islands will come up with some sort of remote worker visa with some exceptions like other places have, such as Barbados?
By raising up this question, if it gets to the right ears, I'm pretty sure they will, because indeed, as you know, there's entire communities living off you guys, your line of industry, your line of work. I'm locally from the city, from Santa Cruz. I have never heard anybody speak even English on the streets, unless it was one tourist from the boats. Now we don't have boats, so it's this full of German people. I have Hungarian clients, German clients living in Santa Cruz. English is it really brings to life a lot of communities. We particularly in our office have seen a huge increase in demands of new clients from both self-employed, limited companies, and so on, from every single nationality. And it's I think if the government sees this as a good thing and not just a tax accountant with an office, or some hotels who have reformed their 5-star facilities to accommodate digital people. So I think if on a political level they study how good is the impact and the exchange of highly qualified professionals as well to come over to the Canary Islands, I think it will only be greater from that point onwards. So regulating the situation of being a nomad, it will be actually a really, really good point.
I just want to clarify a point you raised earlier. Did you say COVID has caused a drop of 93% in the revenue?
No, in the visitors in the month of January.
Right,
Sorry, I heard it on the radio going to my office,
okay.
literally.
Any idea how that translates into a financial revenue drop?
I don't think they even know, but it's when the National Institute of Statistics comes out with the figures, but the drop is substantial. We can only feel the drop because we knew what the whole front of Fañabé beach was before, and now you go there and it's really, really breathtaking. It's just quite sad how certain parts of the islands have come to a ghost town. Drama of personal clients who are now suffering the impact of having absolutely almost close to zero clientele on a daily basis. But in terms of real figures, would we ever get them, or
Well,
something in the line?
you know, you can
It's-
extrapolate that 80% of the Tenerife industry is service related.
If not 90, yeah, indeed.
Well, the official figures are 80%. So if you have a 93% drop in that 80%,
Yeah, but every year is it fluctuates as well. So not every year we have the same revenue as the year before. So it will be a tricky one to address. For example, when the hotel association gets together, have their meetings, and they do their monthly or reporting, and they go together to a hotel and they say, from our side, this is how many millions we have lost. Then you have that side. But to really know it from small business owners of 300 nationalities, that will be quite difficult to quantify, I believe. In bars and stuff like this, how many went home, how many? So the economic quantification to the point and to the zero and the comma is difficult to quantify, but it has been massive, of course. It's, if not the largest crisis we've ever seen, we're very close to it, or is to hope that we all behave and we get out of this line of that we're in.
Got another online question from Johannes Riddick again. So he thanks you for the answer before, but he's looking to stay on the Canaries over the 183 days. So I'll have to become a fiscal resident as well. Can I start a limited company here before being a Canarian resident?
He could indeed, but that doesn't change the personal situation of Johannes. It will be a case to study deeper, because if his reasons of not becoming a fiscal resident are capital or in Spanish we say grandes patrimonios, because of having a particular amount of money in either properties or bank account and so on, that's a case to study differently. But regardless, if he stays over 183 days, according to the law, he must become a fiscal resident.
He's also followed up with another question. And would this change the process of getting residency, or would I still have to get private health insurance, etc.?
It depends if he becomes if he sets up an LTD. By law, the administrator of the company is going to have to be linked to the social security regime of self-employed.
Okay.
So it's the same. He already covers that. So technically, he doesn't have to particularly get private insurance to get the residency.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, brilliant.
I have one.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why Canary Island is the best option to start a company if you compare, for example, with Ireland, Malta, or e-residence in Estonia?
We have one of the greatest taxation levels of Europe. We are Europe, but VAT-wise, we are not. This is maybe, I'll take you back on that one, and then I will explain something of the VAT, which will happen or has happened to most of you. But the main reason the Canary Islands offer you everything is multicultural. You have a lot of facilities. Let's not talk about the great weather all year round, of course, that we're sick of listening to this, but it is also quite a fact for many people. In Tenerife, the sky is always blue, so that's not going to be a reason to be depressed in your work life or whatever, or taking vitamin D tablets like I did in Brussels back in the day. So it's 5 months didn't see the sun. Yeah, you need to take some vitamin D from the doctor. But it's just very, very appealing, and with the growth, with the help of you guys and a lot of co-living and co-working spaces on the Canary Islands in general, it has generated the snowball effect, and is just calling more and more people of this line of business. So the bigger the community and the more known, the more it will attract people as well, like-minded. So that's gonna be also a big bonus, because maybe you have the profile of the adventurer, remote nomad that goes to a weird island in the middle of nowhere, but most of you would like to also catch up with other professionals and super fast internet, and you have both of them now on the Canaries. So.
Thank you.
Another online question.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Johannes.
Oh,
It's not. It's a different person. It's Maximilian Bond. He says, "Hi, I'm thinking about buying land to build a co-living, co-working place. So the land is urbano. So am I allowed to build housing there? But will I also be able to use it for tourism purposes?"
it all depends on the type of land you are buying. Again, I'm not a lawyer of such, but we do a lot of operations with some of the lawyers that collaborate with us. And every town hall has categorized every ground they have. So maybe you have here a house that can obtain the vivienda vacacional, and 300 meters further you can't. Or I even have the case with a particular client. In one block of apartment he can, and in across the street in another one no, because it's affected by touristic soil and because of illegal competence to hotels and so on. He couldn't have a vacational house there, but 10 meters before on the other side of the street, yes. So when this gentleman is going to ask permissions for building, and before even purchasing this piece of ground, of course, he should meet up with a lawyer and an architect to discuss what are the capacities, how many square meters can he build, what is the percentage of ground and building capacity, and also checking if it can be worth turistico and urbanistico, and what uses could this ground have. But starting from the fact that it's urban ground, it's already in the good line. If it would have been rural ground, we would be on to the next question already.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Are there any subsidies or grants or funding and financial that the Canarian give the people who found the company?
Yeah. The first subsidy comes from the Social Security, that's on a state level, and is a grading subsidy of paying off Social Security quotes. At the beginning, to give you an idea, a self-employed person full will pay now approximately, depending on your age, under 41, over 41, under 30 or not, take it or leave it, 290 euros per month. But when I sign up a new self-employed, they will be paying approximately 60 euros, 59.90 something, and that will be for the entire 12 months of their economic activity. On the second year of subsidy, it already raises up to 145, 150 for a duration of 6 months, and from month 18 till month 24 will be on already close to the €200 mark, and then the subsidy is done. But the Canarian government has also a subsidy for people who generate their own job. But in order to comply with this, you need to be registered as unemployed and job seeker. And the helps who have been given up to now, so far, we've done a few last week even, is between 5,000 and 7,000 euro, a one-off payment. Only condition, you must remain self-employed for a duration of minimum 3 years. So that's quite an interesting one. I never had it when I started, so if I can take advantage of it and give it to as many clients as possible, of course we will.
Where can I get some more information about that?
I'll give you my card in a second.
So my question was actually related to that. Do you recommend for people to get a gestor if they're looking to settle to help them through the procedures with Spanish, but also all the paperwork and everything? Is that a recommendation?
Well, to be honest, guys, it's a must because Spain is not known for the simplicity of our procedures. I said that as diplomatic as I could because we are on camera. So, from town hall taxes to the million industries that entities that intervene in, depending on what industry you are registering, knowing the fact that we have 2 different tax offices, the VAT one, the state level one, and the Social Security, and the lack of or the restrictions in possibility of movement to attend to offices where they will explain you this, I would not recommend to anybody to do their taxes without an accountant unless it's something really that simple and you've done it for many years that your accountant even tells you, you know what, I'll just do your tax return or I'll help you with this. But there's a lot more than not only presentation of taxes that goes behind the scenes almost every second month. So you will seriously need advice to address you on what line of business to get, and the accountant should pay himself from the good advice and savings he generates to you.
More questions about taxes, investment, or
Who's ready to move here already?
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys for listening, for contributing, for showing your concerns and your practical questions as well. And we'll exchange details now. And thank you, Marina and Tenerife Work and Play for organizing, Alberto, sorry, for organizing this event. And we'll catch up soon. Thank you.
thank you.